of December 22nd, starting at 1:08 p.m. Without a whole lot of participation, we do have Member Donnelly, who's a member of the committee on wine, Member Jacobs, Pat Higgins, Member Higgins is in the room, and myself, Andy Holloman. Am I leaving anyone out?
Well, the two that aren't here, I'm only missing two or three.
We're missing Dora and
Dora,
Kelly
and
Margot.
So we're missing those three.
Right. So a few people showed up just in the last few minutes. We were about to give up and go home. We do have a relatively light agenda anyway. So my question is, do we want to go ahead and have this meeting without very much in the way of participants? Member Higgins?
These are both important issues. The audit committee is relatively simple. The board has already voted 7-0 to refer it to this committee and to establish an audit committee. So just the language in regards to establishing it, if we could do that, then be done with it. I think the issue about how we're going to evaluate the role of the board in reviewing decisions by the administration is one that, to the degree possible, has as many people engaged in that, because I know there are different views by different members in regards to it. And I think the decision making on that, listening to all sides, would be very important. So I'm a little concerned about trying to reach a conclusion without President Bellamy or Lessons or Wilson's being present.
In essence, it would basically kick the discussion to the full board in a regular board meeting.
It would, and I would rather have it resolved in a committee. I think it's beneficial because of the nature of the topic.
Gotcha.
And leave it up to the other members to comment too.
The only other item on the agenda was the Veterans Day policy change that I simply introduced at the last meeting. That is not time sensitive at all. And there again, I prefer to have more people in the room to discuss that in the committee.
What is that issue?
What it does is say that if we make Veterans Day an in-service day like we did this year, that members could take a day of personal leave if they wish to observe, do something, and well, they can take personal leave for whatever they want. But right now, under contract, some of our bargaining units cannot take a personal day on an in-service day. So a handful of veterans have talked to me. Some of them like being in class with their students. They talk about Veterans Day. Some of them would prefer that it be a holiday for everybody. So because to some vets, there are things they do on that day that matter to them a whole lot. And if it was a class day, they could take a personal day. But because we make it an in-service day, they are required to be in the building or be in violation of the contract. And my goal is simply to relieve that tension.
Is this something that should be done between the administration and the union in some sort of discussion and negotiation, right? They reach agreement, they go forward with it, they can sign an agreement to that.
They could. Or the board could change policy.
Yeah. Well,
so yeah, it is.
But right now the board policy prohibits it because it says board policy has to be followed. Okay.
It's contract language that
was placed in the policies.
It's not in the policy.
Well,
this would create a policy saying that an employee can take a personal day on Veterans Day if they choose to, regardless of whether it's an in-service day or not.
Now, if you do that and they have training that they want all the members to attend, then it's a hit or miss on whether or not someone gets that training. And that could be important training in regards to all kind of legal issues and the kind. So do you really want
the argument against?
Huh?
That would be the argument against doing this.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't have a problem with the administration and union reaching an agreement that's different, but I don't want to necessarily force that on a mandatory training day, people can say, I have the right to take a leave, even though you don't want to give me a leave day one day. And I really, that becomes a discretionary based upon the importance of the time. We always, when I look at leave, I look at employees have a right to take emergency leave. They're sick, they've got kids sick, they've got something that legitimately they couldn't have gotten advance notice for.
Right.
But if we're going to start giving any staff, and I'm not referring just teachers, any staff the discretion of when they show up or when they don't, given the various things that take place. For example, this may be a makeup day, right? They may use this as a makeup day for missing days, the training, if they needed to, and then they have discretion of not showing up.
Well, Veterans Day, I don't think it's ever going to be a makeup day. This
Probably
is specific.
not.
This is specific for one.
When is Veterans Day? What day is that?
Early November.
November 11th,
Yeah.
usually.
I don't know. I mean, we could have had this snow in early October too.
Historically, it was a class day. And so if someone had something personal they wanted to do in remembrance, then they could take a personal day.
Okay.
Or like I said, a lot of veterans like the idea of being in class with kids on that day. But when we started making it an in-service day, that actually put them in a bind where they can't observe that holiday, which is a little bit more personal to a veteran than your run-of-the-mill holiday. And, you know, that's, I will say it makes sense to me that we discuss this with more people in the room. Same situation. If we resolve it today, we have this discussion in a full board meeting.
Yeah, let me go forward. Let me go then to the policy issue in regards to audit committee. As I'm trying to find this, I know the committees are made reference in the president's responsibilities on certain committees that they have to appoint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see a policy on communications committee or a policy for finance committee or something like that spelled out with what their duties and responsibilities are. I was doing a little search for board committee, and all I'm finding is citizen advisory committee. Okay. And how it works. So is there a policy out there for a finance committee? And if so, we could model something like that for an audit. But if there isn't, we could just simply change the policy to add audit under the president, which is not, she doesn't need that to establish an audit committee right away. Okay, because it says other committees, but let's add it for the future to come up. And then the other aspect would be, do we want to give the board, this is a description of what we're asking for. I can type up something real quick and provide it, but if we could meet, next board meeting is January 8th. Because the
9th.
holiday is on the 1st. So January 8th. So if we could meet the week before that to handle all this and catch up with everything, because we can't wait too long on the review of employee issues. That needs to, even if there wasn't any activities, we need to tell the administration, this is what you should expect us to do in the future if it comes to us, so that they can be prepared and know the standards that we're going to look at. I think that's a very reasonable request, and that's a crisis to me. Okay, for them, they need to go out there and tell the managers and supervisors what to expect from the board.
Yeah, I don't know that we could meet before the 8th, but we could meet that week.
Well, then it's not going to be in time for the board, but it would be time enough for the administration to know what we're up to.
Mm-hmm.
We do it the following week.
Yeah, and then it would go to the board on the 23rd.
Okay.
So,
I think, you know, for purposes of what we're doing, I will like to go ahead and provide you a draft of what I think the language could be, because human resources is my field. So I'll go ahead and do a draft of what I think could be out there in regards to the criteria that would be normally used, I think, by an overview. And if you were doing a grievance process, it spells out the expectations of what that grievance, It basically gives you the ability to second guess if you want to, or to evaluate with your own standards. Do I think this was fair?
okay.
And if it wasn't, you do it. That's easy. because of all the union contracts and everything else we got, then it gets a lot more complex. But it's still the same standard. It's a grievance process that says, if this is fundamentally unfair, and the manager is doing it, then it should be overturned. And if we give that standard out there, then before it gets to us, they're going to be applying that standard. Okay.
So does anyone else have anything they feel like needs to come up today?
Carl has his hand up.
Carl, Member Jacobs?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. To Member Higgins' points about kind of codifying a policy regarding what statute describes as an informal hearing process. I am currently working on compiling something that's based off of what little is in Alaska statute, as well as what other districts are doing both inside and outside Alaska. It doesn't have to occur today in terms of conversation, but if any members wish to provide feedback, sending that through Amanda, I think would be generally appropriate. And then I can do my best to incorporate. I'd aim to have something for at least initial discussion today, but this week has just been pretty busy. And we initially planned on having something ready by early next year. And, we want to move up the timeline, it sounds like, which is understandable, but just didn't have time to kind of work through some of that this week. So it is on my radar personally. It's something that I've been passionate about and been working through since last fall, but I don't have any firm product on it yet, but I'm hoping I can meet that timeline that Member Higgins referenced. And then regarding the audit committee, I'm all for discussion. I think it would help to have something in writing to kind of go over and really work through. And then I think, Mr. Chair, your comments about waiting until, although we have a majority of the board present, I think we typically see 6 or 7 board members, which is awesome. And I think we should strive to continue discussing major policy initiatives with as much of a full board as we can. So obviously with the timing here shortly before the holiday, that's not going to be feasible today. And so I'm all for deferring further discussion on that, as well as your Veterans Day proposal till the next meeting, whatever that might be. So those are my thoughts on just about everything. I don't have any other additional new business, if you will. Thank you.
What I'm going to suggest is that we tentatively schedule a meeting for January 12th at 2 p.m.
12th is what day of the week?
Thursday. And
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
It's difficult enough that we're scheduling these during the workday, but if we start scheduling it not even next to the noon break on the workday, it's going to get even harder. I mean, the charter specifically says we're supposed to have the ability to have a regular job and do these the assembly and school board positions, but we've already got meetings extended up to 3 p.m. in the afternoons, overlapping the workday, and this is during my workday. And so if we go to 2 o'clock, then it's going to be even more difficult, because it'll be out of conjunction with the noon hour.
Right.
When we ever get to the period where we just pick a Saturday, so many hours, and handle all of it once a month, that one for me too. It's easy.
Okay. Then tentatively on that date at noon.
What date? January?
January 12th. And what I'll ask is everybody that has a draft or proposal forwarded to Amanda to be put on the agenda for that meeting. That way it's available to everybody without us sending things directly to each other.
So do we want to have that be the governance committee meeting for that month and take it off of the 26th?
I would say for right now, leave the 26th.
Okay.
And if it turns out we feel like we've done everything we need to do, we can cancel
Okay.
that one at a later date.
So in January, what date are we looking at, Ann?
January 12th.
Okay.
Anyone have any input on going forward that way?
So at what time?
No.
Okay. That's fine.
Mr. Chair, this is Carl. I would just second the notion that there's no need to cancel the meeting on the 26th of January right now. You could easily cancel that off the books once the meeting on the 11th is over with and you have a gauge to see what the committee workload is like.
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Unless anyone else has input on it, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Hearing no objections. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the other side of this Christmas break.
I was about to test if no one moved to adjournment, what's the process?